Shalom, Israel. We're going to address tithing today, and I wasn't going to address this topic for a while because, I just wasn't. But I was talking to a neighbor last night. He stopped me, and I ended up sharing the word with him for a couple of hours, which is what I'm commanded to do. And he brought up, tithing. Says his dad is a minister, and his dad kind of guilted him, saying he's going through some things because he's not giving 10% to the church, which, the laws don't teach that. I mean, that's just not biblical. The Old Testament tells, tells the Most High's people to tithe to the Levites. But churches teach you give 10% of your income to help grow the church and to promote the truth of the Most High. But that's not biblical, because tithing was only commanded for the children of Israel to give to the Levites. Now they talk about the first example of tithing in the Bible is when Abraham, when his name was still Abram, he gave tithes to Melchizedek, the king of Salem. Let's read that. Genesis 14:14. And when Abram, talking about Abraham, heard that his brother was his nephew Lot, was taken captive, he armed his trained servants born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. Abraham, he killed them. Genesis 14:16. And he brought back all the goods, and he also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. Genesis 14:18. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth." Real quickly, let's talk about Melchizedek being a priest of the Most High God right now. We know the Levites are only commanded to be the priests of the children of Israel, and they minister in the presence of the children of Israel for the Most High Lord God. But we also have to remember Melchizedek and Abraham, this is before the Levites. So people don't understand that the Most High still had people following him and praising him before the children of Israel were born, because we know the children of Israel came from Abraham. Now they say Melchizedek, the king of Salem, was a priest of the Most High God, and he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth." Even Melchizedek is saying the Most High is possessor of heaven and earth. And as I said, you had people praising and worshiping the Most High before the Levites and any of the children of Israel came on the scene, because they'll also tell you that Abraham followed the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. So Abraham had laws, statutes, and commandments. It just wasn't until Moses with the Israelites during the Exodus in Egypt that the Most High put those laws, statutes, and commandments on some tablets and made a covenant with the children of Israel from that point forward. That's why he told Moses to tell the children of Israel, this first day, the Passover, and you all getting out of here, this will be the beginning of the years for you all. So that was a whole new age for the Most High, for the children of Israel, because that was the beginning of years for us during the Exodus, that first night, Passover. But anyway, Melchizedek, king of Salem, was the priest of the Most High God, because he was worshiping the Most High before the children of Israel even came on the scene. Genesis 14:20. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he, Abram, gave Melchizedek tithes of all. Now they say this was a tithe. It wasn't a tithe. It was really just an offering. He was showing respect. Abram was not commanded to give Melchizedek 10% of anything, but as a sign of respect, he gave him tithes of what he had, his spoils of war, what he just took. So that's not the first place where tithing is, because if you also read Cain and Abel, they was giving some tithes too, remember? They gave some tithes too, remember? The Most High didn't really like Cain's tithing, but he loves Abel's, and Cain got jealous. So Abraham, which his name was Abram now, he wasn't commanded to give a tithe. He gave freely. So that was an offering out of respect. He gave Melchizedek, the king of Salem, which ended up being Jerusalem. Now, the 12 tribes of Israel were commanded to give to the tribe of Levi. Genesis 35:23 through 26. This is Israel's 12 sons. You got Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Joseph, and Benjamin. Later in the scripture, we find that Jacob made Joseph 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim a tribe. That's Genesis 48. So the 12 tribes of Israel: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Manasseh, and Ephraim. Now the Most High told Moses to number the children of Israel, the males 20 years and older, by their fathers' houses. Numbers 1, verses 1 through 4. But in Numbers 1, 47 through 50, God told Moses, Numbers 1 through 47, but the Levites, after the tribe of their fathers, were not numbered among them. He told them, don't number the Levites, because the Levites belong to the Most High. Numbers 1 and 48. For the Lord has spoken unto Moses, saying, only thou shalt not number the tribe of Levi, neither take the sum of them among the children of Israel. But thou shalt appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of testimony, and over the vessels thereof, and over all things that belong to it. They shall bear the tabernacle, and all the vessels thereof, and they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about the tabernacle. Levi was the priest of Israel. Deuteronomy 10 and 9. Wherefore Levi hath no part nor inheritance with his brethren. The Lord is his inheritance, according as the Lord thy God promised him. Levi lived among all the tribes. They were the priests of the 12 tribes of Israel. Now the 12 tribes had to support the Levites. They had to give them some place to stay. They had to, they had to give them some food, because the Most High didn't give them any land. So that's like if you have Judah living in Memphis, Tennessee, Levites amongst them. You got Gadites living in Los Angeles, California, Levites amongst them. You got the tribe of Issachar living in South America, Levites had to live amongst them. You had the tribe of Asher, just say living over there in Asia, Levites had to be amongst them. Everywhere you had the 12 tribes of Israel, because the Most High said he divided, he gave them areas of the earth. Each one of them had their own land, so the Levites had to live amongst them, because a lot of times they were living a long distance from one another. But the Levites had to be amongst them, because they didn't get any land. They were supposed to teach the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments to all the 12 tribes of Israel, because they were the priests. They the ones that can go into the sanctuary and the tank. Well, Aaron and the high priest, that's something totally different. They had to be of Aaron's seed to go in and touch the Ark of the Covenant. But the Levites were the ones, because they didn't get any land, they didn't get any inheritance. The Most High says they are his inheritance. So they had to teach each of the 12 tribes of Israel the laws, statutes, and commandments. So they didn't get any land. So what happened is that every time they had an increase in the land of cattle, food, they had to give the Levites 10% of the increase. Numbers 18 and 21. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel for an inheritance, for their service, which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. Numbers 18 and 23. But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance. But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as an heave offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites to inherit. Therefore I have said unto them, among the children of Israel they shall have no inheritance. And read that now. The Levites are the Most High's priests forever. No one can change that. I know Paul wrote in the so-called New Testament that the priesthood is changed. He did not have the authority to do that. Just because he said it doesn't make it godly from the Most High, because it wasn't. Because the Most High says the Levites are his priests forever, and the Most High doesn't change. Numbers 18 and 25. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, when ye take the children of Israel the tithes, which I have given you from their inheritance, then ye shall offer up an heave offering of it for the Lord, even a 10th part of the tithe. The tithe was for the Levites, for the Levitical priests, because they did not get land. Tithing was not money, it was crops. It was cattle. It was cattle. Just say you're a tribe of Israel. This year, let's say you had a hundred head of cattle, 100 head of cattle. Let's say 100 sheep. The next year you got 200 sheep. So your increase is 100. So your family, you got to give them 10% of that increase, which is 10% of 100. Not 10% of the 200 you got, because it's the increase. So if you had 100 one year, you got 200 the next year, your increase is 100. So your family is supposed to get the Levites 10% of that increase, which would be 10 sheep. Because 10% of 100 is 10. Now, the thing about it, I was talking to my neighbor, and he said his dad had quoted Malachi 3:8 through 10. He said, that's why, because you says, what? Let's read it. Malachi 3:8, because I know y'all probably hear it. Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Now, it's saying right there, because, they like to tell you, would a man rob God? You ain't paying your tithes to the church. Would a man rob God? Now, let's think about it now. Malachi's in the Old Testament. Only people who can be priests and preachers of the word of the Most High are the Levites. They the only ones you're commanded to give tithes to. Everything else is an offering. But when they say, would a man rob God? Because the children of Israel had stopped giving the Levites what they were supposed to give them. They didn't have land, so they couldn't grow no food. So they started being stingy and selfish, giving them whatever. Instead of giving them the best of the increase, they was giving them the worst, or wasn't giving them anything at all. So that's why it's saying, will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. How have we robbed you, Father? He's saying in tithes and offerings. You're not feeding the Levites like you're supposed to. You're not giving them the best of your increase like you're supposed to. Malachi 3:10. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Now they keep saying that, but it tells you right there, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, not the bank to put money in, the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. Food, because they had storehouses to keep the food. That's how much food the Levites were getting, because it was a lot of them. You had to feed them. That's why I said, bring all this tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house to eat. Because if you bless the Levites like I told you to, I'm going to pour out a blessing upon you all continually, that it won't even be room enough to receive it if you obey me and feed them like you're supposed to. As I say, tithing is for the Levites. Preachers use Malachi 3:8 through 10 to say people who don't tithe are robbing God and will be cursed. That's not true. Because Malachi 3:8 and 10, it was talking to the 12 tribes of Israel who did not give the tithes to the Levites. They were supposed to. They didn't. So they was robbing God, because God said, Levite, I'm their inheritance and they're my inheritance. Now you can give an offering, but it's not about money. So I just ask whomever your worship leader is, if they talk to you about tithing, ask them about the Levites. Ask them about the perpetual everlasting covenant that the Most High has with the Levites, because the Levites are the only ones that's commanded to get tithes. Now, a lot of them would tell you that they're not Israelites. They're not Hebrews. Okay, if they're not Hebrews or they're not Israelites, they shouldn't be asking you for tithes then. Because the Levites are the only ones commanded to receive tithes. And the children of Israel are the only ones commanded to give tithes. So it's a couple of questions you need to ask them. If you go to church, ask your worship leader, your preacher, or whoever it is, if the laws are done away with. And we didn't touch on that before, that the Most High says his laws are never done away with, and his laws were only given to the children of Israel. If his laws are done away with, like a lot of them teach, Why are they still tithing then, or asking for tithes? Because that's a law. That's a commandment. You have to ask that question. And also ask them, especially if they say they're not Hebrews, if they're not Israelites, if they are and they want to renounce that and don't want to claim it, that's on them, but that's between them and the Most High. I don't have a problem with them, because it's not my issue. But if they telling you they're not that, so they shouldn't be asking you for tithes then. Now there's plenty more scriptures to talk about tithes, but that's what tithings are for. Tithes are for. They're for the children of Israel to give to the Levites. Because Deuteronomy 32:8, when the Most High said, when he separated the sons of Adam, separated everybody, he said he determined what land he was going to give to everybody else based off the number of the children of Israel. Because he already had this whole plan in his head, scripted out what he was going to do. Because he said everything was ordained and planned before he even started making the heavens and the earth. So the Levites are the ones who gets the tithes, because the Levites, my family, are the ones that are supposed to teach the law, statutes, and commandments to the children of Israel. Now, everybody on the face of the earth is supposed to worship the Most High Lord God and revere him and respect him, because he is the creator of everything and everyone. He is. What you don't have to respect him now, but he's going to come down and make himself known, because he said he was. Because everything he says he's going to do, he did it, and he does it. So ask those questions when they try to guilt you into giving tithes. Tithing is an Old Testament law and commandment. If they say the laws are done away with, you all are you don't have to do the laws anymore, you're under grace. If they keep telling you that, well, that's tithing is an Old Testament law. So why they still asking for tithing? And if they say they're not Israelites, shouldn't be tithing anyway. Because once again, the children of Israel were the only ones commanded to give tithes, and they was commanded to give tithes to the Levites. You got the scriptures. Read and study for yourself. Just trying to clear it up, because they need to stop doing that. Because a lot of these people just taking people's money and they getting rich when people are struggling. Can't even pay their bills. But they bugging you, Cash App, ATM, give me your money, and they around here in $2-3 million homes. Come on, man, that is not of the Father. And plus, the Father don't need your money. He don't need our money. He makes everything. He don't need your money. Because he says in Ecclesiastes 12 and 13 and 14, the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments, not to fear God and give him some money or give man some money. No, he said keep his commandments and fear him, which means respect him. So go back, ask your worship leader. Talk to him about these scriptures. Talk to him about the Levites, because these people are still living. Everybody in the Bible, them people still living. They just, you won't find races in the Bible or people being described by the color of their skin. You have nations of people. So what happened is that they don't call us by nations of people out here. They call us by races and skin color, when that ain't how the Most High categorizes people. He categorizes people by nations of people. So now you can't open that book and say, oh, there's me in there. You be like, oh, African American, I'm European or Russian. That ain't in there. You got nations of people in there. That's how they trick people with these ancestry and these DNAs. Oh, they say I'm 78% European and yada, 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 not knowing that the first Europeans were Negroes. Oh, I say I'm from Russia, even though that's Europe and all that. That's part of Africa anyway. Not knowing that first anything and everything were Negroes. It ain't me making it up. You can research and look it up. In Asia, in Asians, they did a DNA study because they thought they evolved on their own. But they did a DNA study across the country and they saw that they came from Negroes. But it's another conversation. But ask them about tithes and offerings. Don't let them guilt you into giving you your money. Taking all your money and they spend it and they living lavishly while you living on credit card debt and can't pay your bills because they saying God wants your money. No, he don't. He wants your obedience. He wants your love. He wants your respect. That's what he wants. He don't care nothing about your money. None. When our ancestors came out of Egypt during the Exodus, they had plenty of money, but they couldn't. How were they using it? The Most High was giving them everything. Meat, water, food, place to stay. But just ask those questions and don't let somebody guilt you into giving you and for you to give them your money. Because that's not what tithing is about. It was never about money. Now, the only time money comes up, like I said, they ask you for an offering. You can give an offering to support them, but they can't guilt you and command you to give them tithes because that's not biblical. But money did come up. It's like, because when our ancestors had to go to the holy, let's say Shiloh, then it was Jerusalem, to congregate. You're supposed to take your increase with you up there for everybody, all of Israel to eat together and to worship. But they say if you got too much cattle to go and the place is too far, then you determine the monetary value of that, and you take that money, and when you get there, you buy the same amount of cattle and food that you had at home that's equal to that, and you all eat, and you give that as an offering and tithing to the Most High God. So, hope this helps. Don't let anybody guilt you into giving you your money, because tithing was never about money. And the Levites are the Most High's priests forever throughout all generations, because that's an everlasting commandment that he gave, and no one can change that. And Levites are the only one that's supposed to receive tithes. Shalom.